Well, hey, so speaking of control, I think it's very interesting how aggressive the Chinese Communist Party is getting in the South China Sea. That was the big story, that they actually attempted to form sort of a blockade of a disputed shoal that China and the Philippines claim. And really, the story of this, the Second Thomas Shoal, it's crazy. Like back when they were having a dispute about that in the late 90s, I forget the exact year, the Philippines essentially just like ran aground this old World War II ship.
It was an American naval ship from World War II that the U.S. then gave to the Philippines.
And this is what they do with it?
They just crashed it onto a shoal.
And they have just permanently stationed Filipino Marines there.
And we'll put up a photo of this ship.
It is wild.
It is like a rusty hulk now.
It's like Waterworld kind of stuff.
It does look kind of like Waterworld. And, if maybe back in 2013, the Philippine government brought a bunch of Western media to the Second Thomas Shoal to show them, what that was like and how these Marines, and you see Marines, but these are like 8 guys in shorts and T-shirts living in this rusty hulk, and the inside of it, I saw the photos the New York Times took, like the inside of it is completely rusted, and it's just, they have to...
I wonder how you get assigned to that.
I don't know.
Like, is that some kind of punishment?
Well, I think...
Better get your tetanus shot.
The people were like, oh yeah, this is necessary for, to preserve our claim.
And like it is,
I think they get hazard pay or something,
Well, yeah, as Matt says, it is necessary for their claim. And so obviously they need to be resupplied every so often. And what happened was, the Filipino boats coming to resupply these Marines, the Chinese Coast Guard set up a little blockade and attacked them with water cannons. Unfortunately, no one was hurt, but it was essentially cutting off these Marines from necessary supplies because they're on a real rusty boat.
And technically, the boat's never been decommissioned, so it is still a Filipino naval vessel.
Oh,
so if the Chinese Coast Guard attacked the actual ship, that is essentially an act of war.
Which is interesting because in response to all of this, the U.S. State Department did say, like, if Chinese Coast Guard actually attack the Filipino ships, that would activate the U.S.-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty, and the U.S. would get involved.
Yeah, so if it was an armed attack, not just water cannons, but yeah, they specifically said that the resupply ships are covered under the Mutual Defense Treaty. And that was a great thing that the State Department actually issued this because, we've talked on the show a few times about how the U.S. got involved with the Scarborough Shoal in 2012 and kind of messed that up by by essentially not backing the Philippines and not taking a strong enough stand. And then the Chinese Communist Party was able to come in and essentially control the Scarborough Shoal until now.
Freed only by a plucky crew of YouTubers who went to the shoal in 2016 and planted the China Uncensored flag on it, freeing the Scarborough Shoal from the iron-handed control of the Chinese Communist Party and delivering it into freedom.
That was last week, 5 years ago.
What?
It was like mid-November 2016.
Oh, last week was the 5-year anniversary.
They're trying to gaslight Chris that like everything he thought happened in the last 5 years was only in the last week. It's all been a weird dream.
I thought it was like a reference to like, kids born in 2000
are no longer kids.
Yeah.
That was only last week, Chris.
It was only last week.
Yeah, no.
Okay, wow. That was very stupid and dangerous.
In retrospect, Matt, this was all your idea.
It was my idea. And it was, it didn't seem like such a dumb idea at the time. And I had coordinated this with a Filipina American friend who had some contacts in the Philippines and then put us in touch with the Philippine Inquirer, like a big newspaper there. And so we kind of did this collaborative joint thing where they sent a few reporters and we went, and then we all like went up together on this one Filipino fishing boat. And I thought that because they were sending reporters, like it clearly wasn't going to be that dangerous.
Wasn't the boat we were on, had it been rammed or water cannoned?
It was rammed, but we didn't find that out until we were already in the middle of the South China Sea.
That's right.
There were a lot of things we didn't kind of find out about that trip.
Yeah. Well, like we were told it would be a 19-hour a 12-hour round way trip.
It was 12-hour
round trip.
Yeah. And then it was, it's 12 hours each way. And then the reality was it ended up being
57 hours.
Something like that, yeah.
Total.
So long.
Because we spent some time just like there. And then we also had like spent some time, I think, in the middle of one of the nights, like not moving.
Well, yeah, we were also there during a supermoon, and the waves were like 20 feet high.
Yeah.
And I saw Poseidon.
I do remember waking up in the middle of the night because I was being splashed by waves.
Yeah. Didn't we do a parody of that Hamilton song, Rise Up? And like we made into Rise Up Cthulhu from the Deep and made it a little chant about worshiping Cthulhu.
Was Hamilton even out then? I have no idea. I have no memory of this.
I know we did that, but maybe it was like on a trip to DC for some reason.
I was like, I don't remember doing that on that trip. But you did sing the Scarborough Fair song.
Oh, yeah.
With Scarborough Shoal. And
yeah. It's the open ocean is terrifying, especially when you're on a little rinky-dinky ship that doesn't have like an inside.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like this. As you can see from the photo, there's no below deck. It's just like a catamaran style ship.
Some of those nice fishermen cooked some of the best seafood and pork belly I've ever had.
Yeah. I mean, I also like it. It makes me a lot more sympathetic to what the fishermen there face because of course, they're spending a big part of their life on these small boats in very difficult conditions. And then on top of that, made far more difficult by like never knowing, after spending a day getting to the shoal, which is where the best fish are, whether they're going to even be allowed to fish in that area because of all the Chinese coastguard ships intimidating them. And we saw a whole bunch of ships, including coastguard ships and maybe some other related China-connected ships, like surrounding the area.
That was the scariest part. I think when we were on the open ocean, it almost was peaceful in a way, because it was like beautiful, very different from being in New York City. But then when we were getting closer to the shoal, I think the moment for me was seeing the Coast Guard ships in the distance and then the fishermen asking you to cover your hair because they didn't want your blonde hair to be visible.
Yeah.
And for the first time, I was kind of like, all right, now it feels a little real.
Yeah. Well, that's why we brought some cigarettes and alcohol to try and bribe PLA or Coast Guard, Chinese Coast Guard, if it came to that.
Maybe a good backup plan. But it didn't come to that.
Yeah,
they were Marlboros.
Yeah, and we gave it to the fishermen instead. Don't smoke, kids.
What was really interesting is you could really feel, the poverty of that area. I remember when we first got there, and there were a bunch of kids on the beach, and just the garbage on the beach. There were like old VHS tapes, and the kids were taking the tapes out and kind of like playing with them and wrapping them around themselves. And I was like, oh my gosh, they're playing in garbage. And then, the fisherman we went with, like the captain of the boat, like we went to his house briefly, like, he's like well off. He has his own boat.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you don't see many places in America with that level of poverty. And then realizing what they're up against when they try to go out and fish and aren't able to. They wanted to stay out for longer so they could fish longer. And we had to kind of be like, sorry.
We're on a schedule.
We have a plane to catch.
Yeah. But then right after they were going to go out back the next day after they brought us back. And just like, if you're like how much their livelihood is affected by the Chinese Communist Party's territorial claims.
And so what was crazy was after the Chinese Coast Guard blockaded the Marines, Xi Jinping had the audacity to like speak to a group of Southeast Asian leaders and say, like, China's not trying to become a hegemon. Nobody needs to worry about us bullying people in the South China Sea. Right after they did this.
I mean, Xi Jinping told Obama to his face that they were not going to militarize the South China Sea.
Yeah, that's right.
And then they were building missile bases on those islands. So, yeah, that he can say a lot of stuff. He's good at that.
Yeah. But, I mean, fortunately, because of a bunch of countries were like upset about this, and the U.S. State Department had a strong stance, the blockade was broken, which was great.
Yeah, they backed down, which shows that you can get them to back down.
Yeah.
So they let the resupply ships come in again.
And shortly after that, the U.S. and Japan conducted their first anti-submarine drills in the South China Sea. So that's another nice little needling at Xi Jinping and the Communist Party's South China Sea.
I mean, this is how you get them to de-escalate, right?
Mm-hmm.
By actually standing up and being like, there are going to be consequences, if you keep doing this. And then they're like, okay, they back down.